Hello again all. Today we are going to be looking at facial proportions and really how to break down a head into the various facial features. We're also going to add ears, a neck, and a little bit of shoulder indication so that our faces, our heads don't look like they've been decapitated. That's the last thing we want. So we're going to be doing this in your sketchbook. I highly recommend using a graphite pencil for this as we want to sketch lightly, be able to edit and erase and lighten things. So you can work vertically or horizontally, it doesn't really matter, but again, you do want to be working in your sketchbook, and we're going to title it Facial Proportions with the date. Now, there are a lot of different methods for getting accurate faces, and every single person is different. So I'm going to show you what works for me, and I will also link you some resources for other methods that people have used and gotten good results with. So today, like I said, a graphite pencil, preferably a lighter one. We're not really going to be shading today, just kind of marking things in loosely. We're going to start the way that most sketches of faces start, and that's with a circle. So just kind of loosely draw one. Again, you want to draw with your shoulders to get that motion, and we don't really want this to be dark. So we're really starting with just a circle. Once you have your circle, you're going to cut it in half. And I'm going to be drawing a line on the side that I would also like you to draw with me. So we have the top of the circle and the bottom of the circle. And I'm going to draw this bar that shows you that. So top of the circle, bottom of the circle. And then we have about halfway through. So I'm going to take that half, and I'm going to add that to the bottom to create the chin. So we're not basing our entire drawing of a face on just the circle, but we're going to add more length to it. So you're going to take that measurement, so half of the circle, and then you're going to extend that down. So about there. And I will mark that in red. So you see that I have this line going down here. And the bottom of this will represent my chin. And I will write that in. So again, that was me taking half of the circle and then extending that down, and that created that chin area for me. Okay. So we already have a good basis for some facial features, so we're going to start marking those in using this bar that you see over here. So I'll just draw another black line right next to it so that it's easy for us to measure the whole thing. But really those two colors, so the circle and then the red bottom third of it, are pretty distinct from each other. So let's start out with that halfway point that we have from our starting circle. And so that is actually going to represent our brow. So switching back to that blue color, at about the halfway through the circle is where our brow is. Now, people think when I say brow, I mean eyebrows, and I do, but I'm also thinking about the skull that is, behind us, that makes us up anatomically. So I want you to feel where your eyebrows are, and you should be able to feel the brow ridge, that bone, before it dips down and turns into your eye socket. So right under your eyebrows is your eyes, or are your eyes. And we're going to indicate where your brows occur with that halfway point. Now, at the bottom of the circle, so right between there and that bottom of the circle, that's actually going to be roughly where the nose is. So this is the bottom of circle. Oops. And that's going to be the nose. And usually that's going to be the bottom part of the nose. So I want to indicate that as well. So we have our brow at the middle of the circle. Our nose, or the bottom of our nose, is going to hit just under it. And then that extension is going to be our chin. Now we can start to add in some other areas. So a lot of people think that you draw the eyes where the brow is. That's actually where the eyebrows are. So underneath that, we're going to put the eyes. So between the halfway point and the bottom, you can divide that roughly into thirds. So this is 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. And if I take that line, a ruler might be nice for this point. I tend to freehand, but if a ruler will help you, then great. So at like 1/3 of the way between the brow and the nose is going to be your eyes. And that's going to hit about the midpoint of the eyes. So somewhere in the middle, not like the top or not the bottom of them necessarily. Okay. So really all that's left is to place the mouth, and then we can start drawing these in really roughly. Switch to purple. So we can do the same thing where we divide between the nose and the chin now. What I tend to think is easiest is dividing it in half. So halfway between the nose and the chin now is going to be the mouth. And this is probably going to hit either midway through the mouth or the bottom. Usually this hits about the bottom part of the mouth. And I will extend that line over and draw that there. Okay, so we have all our lines placed. We're going to figure out the width of some things now. So we have our brow, our eyes, the bottom of the circle, which is where the nose is, the mouth in between the nose and the chin, and that's it for facial features for the most part. So right now I can kind of figure out that my nose and my mouth are going to hit about that middle center line. But my eyes are a different story, so we need to figure out where we're going to place our eyes. So a trick is that your eyes are about like 1/5 of the circle. So eyes are 1/5 of circle. By that I mean if we divide the circle up, so let me draw a nice symmetry line there. If I divide this initial blue circle up into 1, 2, 3, notice that 3 gets cut right down the center. 4, 5 different lines. So I'll just draw those in. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So your eyes really occur, I'm just going to bring those circles down, in the second and the fourth one. So, let me take my eraser and try to simplify that. So we cut our face into 5 equal parts. I use a circle to kind of help me with that. And I do it from that middle point, since it gets a little bit smaller on the edges over here. At the second and fourth circles, that's where I'm going to lower them. And I'm going to do my eyes in that middle point right there. So I'm going to clean up everything I did before. So my eyes are going to be there. If I keep all the circles, it'll be fine. It just might be confusing or look like an alien. So there are my eye sockets. So think of a skull and how your eye is a ball or a sphere that kind of fits inside of there. So we're drawing like the eyeball at that point. We're not really drawing like the eye itself. So a little bit of a different shape. Yay! That's where your eyes are. Next, we're going to like roughly place where your nose is. Again, I'm going to go down to the orange, and that's going to be here. Remember, that's the bottom of it. So I like to indicate the bottom like starting with a circle. And that represents kind of like the tip of the nose. And we can kind of bring down from that top area. And I like to cut the circle a little bit. Okay. Next we have our mouth. And again, this was roughly the bottom of my mouth, so I kind of want to draw a line above there. And a lot of people will measure the width of the mouth by taking about halfway through the eyes and bringing that kind of down. And that's how a lot of people measure where the mouth is. You can simplify your mouth right now by just making it a thick line and then a curved line under it. Okay. So this is where we're going to eventually draw our facial features. We're going to also add the shape of the face to this and a couple of anatomy things with the neck and with the ears. So I am going to switch colors now, and I'm really going to lighten out the things that I sketched before. So this is your chance to take your eraser and really lighten up the areas that we had over there. You can keep all of your lines, obviously, if you'd like to. So let's start by shaping the face more. So initially we had that brow kind of line, and that brow line is actually going to kind of go diagonally up into the skull. That's where it kind of points out. And then it'll kind of straighten almost until we hit that jaw point. So it can be a little bit diagonal, or it can be pretty straight depending on your person. But we're just kind of shaping the face. It's going to hit that jaw. And at that point, it's going to turn kind of sharply in until it hits your chin. So right now I have a very angly person. And again, this is just for anatomy, so we don't really care about making this perfect and human looking. Okay. We're also going to do the top of the head. So if you think of the top of your head, a lot of people like to make it very flat and round. If you look at an actual skull, there's just a tiny bit of a point to it. And we're going to kind of go around and widen that up just a little bit because the back of your head is a little bit wider. It needs to fit your big brain. There we go. Okay, next we want to get the ears. Now, as a note, your ears go from the top of your eyes, so we have the midpoint of our eyes, we're probably going to go a little higher, to the bottom of your nose. That's how far your ears go. So let's write that down maybe on the other side. So top of your eyes, wherever they're going to end up, to the bottom of your nose. And that's where your ears are. So from here to here, that's your ears. And that's on both sides. So we're not really concerned with making perfect ears today. Most ears will be this almost like C shape. So start wherever the top of your eyes would be, not the midpoint. So lift it up a little bit. And bring that down. And some people have a more pronounced earlobe, so we're going to have it go in like this, and then a little bit of a jump back out. I'm just going to add a very simple set of lines to make this look more like an ear. There you go. So I went like this. The lines that I added were just a little loop like that, one like that, and I just added one more. So I did that on the other side as well. So loop like the top, little one at the bottom, and just a line like that. And that's a super simplified ear, not really one that we would draw in real life, but kind of the basis for one. Okay, we have the top of your head, we have ears. Now we have to add in your neck and shoulders. So depending on how developed the neck muscles are, that's going to give you a wider neck or a thinner neck. And so with this, somewhere in the middle, it's roughly where the jaw starts. So you want to roughly where the jaw starts, kind of bring your neck down. Again, it depends on how well developed their muscles are in their shoulders when it transitions. We just don't want tiny shoulders like this. That doesn't fit like our bones, so our neck bones and our clavicle. So we want to make sure that we can fit those in. We really want to extend this. Someone said that you're maybe like a couple heads wide, so you want to give yourself enough room and then curve down. So again, you want to leave room for these kind of bones that you have here, your clavicles. Okay. Yay! So now that we have that, we can do some very rough placement of things so we know where things are going to go. At this point, you probably want to give yourself some actual like leaf-shaped eyes. So we'll start there. And I will teach you how to do these a lot better later. But we just want to kind of cut that circle we have. Remember that that line we drew was about the midpoint to it. So there's eyes, and we'll just draw in these rough kind of half circles. They get cut off for the inside. Not a lot of detail there. Some people have very wide eyes that are open more. Some people have kind of closed eyes. Everyone is different and beautiful. Okay. We have that blue line that was halfway to the circle, and that's going to be our eyebrows. So you can make just lines that kind of follow that circle almost. They can be a little bit sharper if you want towards the back. So they can go up and then down, up and down. They can be thinner, they can be thicker. We're just trying to place things today. That nose that we had, I'm going to show you how to do a very rough nose. So we hit the bottom of it with just this small kind of smiley face, and then we'll do these humps on either side to represent the nostrils just kind of peeking out. And then we'll flare out the sides. That's how we'll do that nose. And it kind of connects up a little bit, so I like to indicate that it connects upwards. Just with some broken lines, so some disconnected ones. Then finally we have our mouth. So the purple line at the bottom where the jaw is, that was supposed to represent kind of like the mid or bottom of it. I think if it was the mid right now, it would be a little bit too low. So it kind of depends on the nose. You want to figure out a good distance between the nose and the mouth and whatever your person has. But you want like a slight, again, like that smile down to about the midpoints of the eyes. And I just like to kind of curl under. There's usually like a little bit of a shadow right under there. And there we go. This is your rough anatomy of a person. I'm sure it looks very strange right now, but as we go forward, we'll use this as our basis. I wanted to show you some examples, so let me take away my proportion lines and we kind of have something that looks like a person. But if I show you some examples that I have, they really break down in the same way. So even though they're not marked in, you can see that halfway through that initial circle was that brow. Then I had the eyes kind of like on the upper third of between the brow and the nose. I had my nose where the bottom of the circle is, my mouth in between. For this particular person, this was the middle part of her mouth, not the bottom. So that's why I said mid or bottom. And then the chin is right at the base of that. So we added half of our circle, and that's where we got that. She has a neck and shoulders. She has ears. You'll see that again with a completely different person. So it's really roughly the same measurements. You change and tweak things as needed. But ultimately, you should end up with roughly what we had before. And as we continue with this class, we'll break down each of these parts individually so that we can place them and draw them to the best of our abilities. So thank you, everybody.